I'm Rob Garwitz. I'm the co-founder of Daily Standard. This is my wife, Emily Garwitz, also co-founder. And we are Daily Standard. Okay. So this is a stat that maybe some people in this room have seen before. 40% of the leading causes of death in the US are preventable. And of those leading causes, heart disease, a lot of the diseases we hear about kind of every day are a part of that. And for Emily and I, that's a really personal statistic. We've had our own journey understanding the power of nutrition and food and how it can impact your body. And now that we have a 17-month-old daughter, we think about that in a much different way. Take obesity rates, for example. 1 out of 5 children now are obese. And so we think about our daughter, Eleanor, and we don't want her to grow up in a world where this is the case. So for Emily and I, this is kind of our North Star, problem that we wanted to address when we started Daily Standard. And so we developed this, what we call hypothesis, years ago, and that it's most Americans, even well-intentioned people that are trying to live a healthy lifestyle, ourselves included, often we lower our food standards because we have a lack of time, and in some cases, a lack of options. And we think this is especially true for breakfast, which is a market opportunity that we've identified with Daily Standard. So this is where we started. And from here, we did research. We talked to a lot of people. We tried to understand morning habits, morning routines, how people eat. And here's something really interesting that we found out related to our hypothesis. So this was a survey that we did of 162 people in the St. Louis region. And one of the questions we asked them was, we said, what prevents you from eating a healthier breakfast? And as you can see, 7 out of 10 people said, we don't feel like we eat quite well enough in the morning. And your leading answers, I don't have enough time, and there are no good options near me to pick up. And so for us and from subsequent research, this really confirmed what our hypothesis really was. So this really caused us to charge forward with this idea. And so enter Daily Standard. Our mission as a company is to support and inspire a healthy on-the-go lifestyle. We want to be more than just a brick-and-mortar restaurant or a transactional business. What we envision is really being a brand and a platform that stands for something and can inspire people to really live, again, that healthy on-the-go lifestyle. So let me kind of paint a picture for you for what you're imagining. So I should mention first and foremost, we don't have a brick and mortar location yet. So right now we're a traveling concept. We're doing pop-ups, events around the St. Louis community, but we're currently looking for a location. And what we really are is we're a fast casual restaurant. So think about if you've been into a Shake Shack or Chipotle, Panera, those kind of fall into that fast casual category. And really what we're aiming to do is to solve that modern day problem of eating well on the go. So we will serve breakfast, lunch, coffee. That's going to be our main kind of cuisine. And really where we think there's a really big market opportunity, and we'll share a little bit more about that, is with breakfast in this fast casual space. So if you're trying to imagine in your head, think about in some ways we kind of describe ourselves as a Panera for millennials. Think about Panera almost meeting Shake Shack. If you've been to Shake Shack in Central West End, it's bright, it's energetic, you order at the counter, it's kind of got that youthful feel to it. But then our twist is going to be, we're really going to focus on that better for you cuisine and really kind of that health component. But what makes us different, right? What makes Daily Standard different from what's out in the market? And so there's really 2 dimensions that we looked at in order to differentiate ourselves. So the magic is really going to be blending this idea of what we call better for you food or better for you cuisine done in a convenient format, right? We're not slowing down anytime soon as a society, right? We're an on-the-go society, so you have to deliver on convenience if you're going to succeed. So when we originally thought about this and we studied the market opportunity, if you take first this idea of quality or better for you, think about yourselves. If it's a Wednesday morning and you're busy, but you're like, hey, you know what? I want something that's a little bit better for me. It tastes good, and you're really thinking, I just want something that it meets my quality standards. When we thought about ourselves and when we asked people, by and large, people said, yeah, I gotta go to a place where I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna order from a waiter, and it's gonna take me 30, 40 minutes, right? And so then on the other end of the spectrum, if you think about convenience, if you just say, hey, I just wanna pick up something quick and easy, maybe with my cup of coffee, get a bite to go with it. When we thought about ourselves and when we asked people, it was Starbucks, Dunkin', fast food, maybe your local coffee shop. And then we'd ask people, well, what do you think of the food at those places? It's okay, it's just all right. And in some cases, I actually don't like the food there. So the magic is really in combining these two. And then these are some of the ways that we're going to achieve that. And so to kind of paint the picture a little more for you, what kind of food will we be serving? So we really have two main categories on our menu, and that's handhelds and bowls. So our handhelds are really wraps and sandwiches. Bowls are going to be, salads, grain bowls, and then hashes in some cases. But what's really kind of critical here is this was highly intentional. Our menu is going to be a fairly focused menu. So between handhelds and bowls, we're going to have about 10 menu items on there. And while they are flexible menu items, some of our bowls you can make into a handheld can become a bowl. Highly intentional because in our research, what we found, particularly for breakfast, in some cases lunch, people aren't necessarily looking for wide variety. What they're looking for is, hey, give me a favorite that tastes great, is good for me, and then I can just sort of rinse and repeat. Breakfast, from our research, is the routine meal. So that's really intentional with how we build our menu. But let's talk about our customer, because we really wanted to dive deeply into who would benefit most from this service. And so we kind of look at that in two different ways. Broadly speaking, we define our customer as the weekday commuter. So that could be anybody in this room today, right? Anybody that on a Wednesday morning like this morning is kind of on the go, busy. That could be stay-at-home moms, that could be entrepreneurs, that could be a wide range of people. But we felt like we needed to be a little more focused than that. So we really are targeting and building a model that serves millennial parents. And the reason we are doing that is because, again, our model we think can best benefit millennial parents, and it just so happens that Emily and I are kind of in that demographic. We have a 17-month-old daughter. And so I won't read the statistics there to you, but really the data shows that millennial parents, more than any other demo, or sort of lifestyle demo, is they're spending more for food, they demand quality, but they also, and I should say we also sort of demand convenience and quickness. So one thing that I didn't mention before is, tech is going to be a part of this too, right? The ability to order on your phone, mobile ordering and ordering ahead. So we have to meet the expectations of that customer on that dimension. And millennials are really the ones that are driving the market opportunity for the fast casual segment. So to take a step back, I just want to make sure I define fast casual, because I will assume that not everybody knows exactly what that means. So fast casual is essentially counter service is a key component of that. No wait staff, you're walking up, you're ordering at a counter. Generally smaller format restaurants, so I gave you some examples before. And your average ticket's going to be $7 to $15. So it's a higher volume, but lower ticket average versus a sit-down restaurant. And what's really, really interesting and what we think is attractive is the fast casual segment of the $800 billion restaurant industry is the fastest growing segment. And one of those key drivers of growth is sort of a sub-segment of that, which is healthy fast casual. And so as you can kind of see there, you can kind of read through some of those data points, but really what that's saying is that healthy fast casual, quality ingredients, there's different ways to define it, but what's really driving the growth is that what we call better for you cuisine. And sort of a bonus is that breakfast of the 3 day parts, breakfast, lunch, dinner, is the fastest growing day part. So there's a reason you see McDonald's, Jack in the Box, some of these big brands are saying we're doing breakfast all day, because that's a growing day part. It's also a cuisine that people are demanding. So a little bit about us. So I mentioned I'm Rob, and this is my wife and co-founder Emily. We are both St. Louis natives, and Daily Standard for us really kind of started as a passion project at home. We started thinking about what we put in our bodies and the way it makes us feel every day, and it's really been this journey that we've gone on until this point where we've realized the power that it can have on your day-to-day life. So that's really our motivations behind this. I recently completed my MBA from Olin at WashU. My background's actually in retail and sporting goods. I worked for Nike for 6 years. And then Emily is an educator by trade, and I would argue one of the best educators in St. Louis that you'll meet. And she is handling some of the marketing components of the business, while I'll be handling some of the day-to-day operations. We also have a great team behind us as well. So, we really, we're very proud of the people that we've been working with, and we've had a great team of people that have been helping us move along with the business in the industry, some from a variety of different companies. We also have some non-industry advisors, and I think a few people in the room probably know Cliff Holcamp, who works here. Cliff's been a mentor to me personally when I was at WashU, and has been a great mentor to the business. We've also developed some partnerships that we're really excited about, we're really proud of. So when we originally developed our menu, and I didn't mention that by the way, if you go to our website, dailystandardfood.com, we've got our backstory, and then our menu is on there as well, so you can check out some of the cuisine we'll be serving. We partnered with Guerrilla Street Food co-founder Brian Hardesty to develop the menu, and he's been helping us with a lot of the culinary elements of the business. And then Blueprint Coffee. If you haven't had Blueprint Coffee, you should. They make fantastic coffee. No disrespect, I know we have a partnership here with a coffee provider. We believe Blueprint Coffee is the best coffee roaster in the St. Louis region. So they will be our coffee supplier and partner, and we've done some event and programming with them. But where do we want to take Daily Standard? So we have a big vision for Daily Standard. So first and foremost, we kind of had three things that we said. We are building a scalable concept. That's ultimately what we want to do. We believe our value proposition and our strategy can scale to multiple markets within St. Louis, and we also think that it can scale to markets outside St. Louis. So that's first and foremost. We also think that there's an opportunity within the breakfast category to really be a leader within the fast casual movement for breakfast. Right now you can argue Starbucks is there. They're really obviously a drink first concept. You have Dunkin', you have Panera in there, you have some big players, but you look at Panera, their biggest day part's going to be lunch, right? That's really what's driving their business. And in Starbucks and Dunkin's case, it's going to be drinks. We think there's an opportunity to really lead in the breakfast space. And then last, but certainly not least, I think I mentioned this, that we want to be a platform for positive change in our community. So I would love to talk in more detail afterwards if you have questions about that, but Emily and I are both St. Louis natives. We grew up here, we moved around quite a bit throughout the Midwest, and spent a lot of years away from St. Louis. We came back to St. Louis to start a company here. We always had a dream to start our own company, but we didn't want to do it anywhere else but St. Louis. So that's really, really important to us to support the community, organizations like T-Rex, and then getting our food out to people maybe they can't, that don't have access to fresh, healthy food. That's really, really important to us. So how are we going to achieve that vision? This is a roadmap really for what we envision for the first 5 years of the business. Our goal, our ambitious goal, is to open 7 restaurants in 5 years. And from there, we said year 5, that's where we can look at potentially accelerated growth opportunities. So whether that's franchising opportunities, getting outside capital to grow our company-owned stores, that's really going to be our first real milestone for growth. And really the model is to, at scale, build these up to the point where $1 million is the target revenue per unit. That's really what the model is built towards. And as mentioned, we want to build a model that can scale outside the St. Louis region. And then I want to end here. So I mentioned we don't have a location yet. We're currently searching for a location, but we do actually have a lot of momentum. You may not, I'm assuming that most people haven't heard of us yet, but we've been out in the community. We've been doing events, pop-ups. We've been serving some food, which, by the way, we do have some food samples for you afterwards. We had a pop-up event. This is an example of one of them that we've been doing with our coffee partner in Blueprint Coffee. and it was an amazing event. We took over the breakfast menu for the entire morning on a Saturday, and we completely sold out of food in 3 hours. But what we were really excited about is we got tremendous feedback on the concept. We got some critical feedback too about, hey, on the food, how you can make it better, and we certainly took that to heart, and we're still trying to refine certain concepts of the business. But what really struck us is we had a lot of people come up to us and say, I've just been dying for something that is quick, but it's also just good for me and actually tastes good at the same time. We got a lot of that feedback that confirmed a lot of the, that hypothesis that we talked about at the very beginning. And so that's really why we're here today, is really for feedback. And so I'm going to open it up for questions, comments, but thank you for your time and attention.
Please wait for the microphone so that the camera can hear you. So who would like to start with the questions? Okay, go, hold on. Wait for the microphone.
Come on now, you know this. Thank you. You said you're looking for locations. Have you considered what area at least?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. So look, our location strategy is, and this is actually a really critical part of the strategy, is we're looking for locations that are on people's commutes to work. So ideally, the Clayton area, the Highway 40 to downtown. So think Rock Hill, Brentwood, where you're getting a lot of that morning traffic heading out towards the business centers. Because again, our target, millennial parents, but we imagine that a lot of them are going to be, business professionals. And then we want to be on the right-hand side of the road, which sounds like a little thing, but it's actually really important that you think about your best, think about any Starbucks in St. Louis. They're on the morning side of the road, and there's a reason for that, because you don't want to have to take a left-hand turn in the middle of traffic. So those are two really kind of important components to it. But Central Corridor is really what we're aiming towards. We've looked in other areas. We've looked in some areas in the city too. There's kind of a broad area we're looking at, but there's also kind of that Central Corridor that would be ideal. Thank you.
More questions? Come on, okay, thank you.
So what are some current challenges you're facing right now financially?
From a finance standpoint?
Yeah.
I mean, right now, we haven't really had any major capital expenditures, so really none yet. We're very fortunate. We have good financial backing from our families. We're putting some of our own money into it. Again, we've been working. We're in our early 30s, so we've been working for a number of years saving for this. So we're in a good financial position to really launch this business.
If you were to get capital investment to this, what will it primarily go to?
It would, well, you mean pre-opening?
Yes.
I mean, really, it comes down to your capital expenditures related to the build out of the restaurant. Fortunately, our model is we're looking at 1,500 to 2,000 square feet spaces, which is pretty small. I mean, think of most Chipotle's, for example, are about 2,000 square feet. So your build out costs are going to be much more limited compared to, say, Panera, which is maybe 4,000 square feet. But so primarily build out is going to be the biggest thing. And then a really important priority for us is we're actively recruiting, and we have a number of people on our bench right now for general managers, kitchen managers. That first one thing we didn't talk about was the importance of people in this business. When I talked about the impact we want to make on the St. Louis community, it's not just about creating jobs for us. It's also about creating growth opportunities too. Restaurants, if you've worked in a restaurant before, it can be a tough business, and you don't always get treated the best in a restaurant. That's kind of at least the stereotype, but it is a tremendous growth opportunity, whether it's a management position or whether that's a first job out of high school or that's a second chance opportunity. So that's really one of our big focuses right now is finding people that can really be the leaders of the business.
What do you anticipate the split between the takeaway versus the sit-down?
I'm glad you asked that. So we're thinking somewhere around 30% of our business is going to be that off-premise. So ordering. So one thing I didn't mention when I said tech-enabled, or I think one of those terminologies, mobile order ahead. So our model will be that you can order on your phone, you can order digitally or on your computer, and you can actually pick a time where you go and pick up your food. So if you've ever ordered, Panera's doing this. Most of the major fast casuals are doing this now, where you can order ahead, and we'll have shelves built right into the the infrastructure of the restaurant, and you can just come in. You've already paid, and you just grab it and go. So if you include that, yeah, roughly about a third of the business. Ideally, we'd like that number to be even higher, because if you think about the restaurant, the four walls of the restaurant, that's your capacity, right? You only have so many seats, so many tables. So the more people you can get to just come in, grab, and go, obviously they don't have to get in line, they don't take up a table. So our goal is to have that number get higher and higher as we grow and continue to invest in the technology behind ordering ahead and some of those digital capabilities. But that's our target, is 30 to start and then higher.
Just one other question regarding the location. Seems like you're targeting suburban. Do you have any ideas for urban, like Central West End or downtown?
I'm glad you asked that. Yeah, another, I'd say, priority high on the list in our location strategy is parking. A lot of our research has shown that this is a driving city by and large. We have public transportation, but we're by and large a driving city. And so parking is really a element of convenience. We talked about our value proposition, and we say we want to be really a seamless, convenient experience. And so the ability to have some off-street parking is really important to us. That being said, we have looked at locations within the city limits. We're not saying we're exclusive to we're excluding the city, but parking is a really big consideration for us. Thank you.
Really good job. So I just want to ask, I really love your concept. Have you considered also doing subscription boxes as well? Because a lot of times millennials are now just ordering like once a month, and where boxes come for lunch and dinner. That's something like I'm starting to do myself personally. And now I think really like when it comes to breakfast, there's startups that are really starting to enter that space. So if you do both the subscription as well as the in-store, I think that would be really interesting. Have you considered that?
We've thought creatively really across the dimension of convenience. Drive-through is an example too. There's this connotation with the drive-through that people thought for years, well, it just means fast food and it's unhealthy. But you're actually starting to see a movement towards healthy fast casuals, health-focused concepts or quality-focused concepts that are saying people are ready for a drive-through and it's working. St. Louis, you haven't seen quite as many. It's starting on the coast and Chicago and some of your big cities. But so we've thought creatively across that dimension of convenience and said, how can we make it the most seamless experience for people? Because the morning is a precious time, right? You're short on time, you have your routine, you gotta be somewhere, whether it's a meeting, pick up your kid, or drop off your kids. So we know that morning is a limited time and it's a precious time. So relative to subscriptions, yeah, we thought about, is there a way that we can have, for example, on our mobile ordering platform, you can save your favorites and you can just rinse and repeat. We have thought about how can we get that, I guess you could call it a subscription within the restaurant environment, but in terms of outside of the restaurant, not quite yet. One element of the business that's pretty important to us is focus. We want to stay focused. What we always say is we want to be great at a few things. We don't want to try to just be good at a lot of things. And so while opportunities like that are tempting, we say let's focus on our core mission and what we can be great at, and then as it relates to convenience, yeah, we're gonna look at those opportunities.
And then one more thing, I know you said between about 1,500 and 2,000. I really like the idea of like that 1,000 square feet shotgun, just a shotgun store, and then really kind of narrowing down your options when it comes to like the whole entire city, and then basically just looking at all those options and duplicating that process.
Yeah, thanks for the feedback, and that really relates to the question that was asked before about off-premise, because if you can, I'm trying to think of an example, but if you can, the smaller the space, obviously, the more you're going to keep a lot of your operational costs down, and the cost of the lease, and the more you can have that off-premise ordering, just grabbing and going. I mean, that's tremendous increase in your ability to do value.
Okay, apropos of parking downtown, you'd locate yourself between the parking lots people use and the offices they walk to. Talk about the food. How does it taste?
Yeah.
And more importantly, if you are marketing to millennials particularly, what makes you cool?
And you said that. Great question. Well, let's start with the food because I didn't mention. I just wanted to mention here that these are a few of our actual dishes. And so on top here, this is our bagel and lox bowl. It's essentially a deconstructed version of bagel and lox, and it's a lot, I'd say, better for you in a lot of senses. So instead of using cream cheese, we use goat cheese. We have a goat cheese vinaigrette. So we kind of replicate that cream cheese with a little bit of a lighter version of it. And then in the middle here, this is probably one of our more indulgent items, but it's our signature daily standard sandwich. But even though it's, it said indulgent, we use really high quality ingredients. So I kind of compare this to, again, Shake Shack. They didn't invent the burger, right? Shake Shack just said we're going to take all the components of the burger and we're going to be really intentional about where we get those ingredients. Are they clean ingredients, right? And how do we execute it? And they execute their burger pretty flawlessly and at a pretty large scale. So the same model we're taking to this sandwich. This is our signature sandwich. It's an egg, sausage, and cheese sandwich, but we use a local sausage that doesn't have antibiotics and hormones, which is a really important part of our food philosophy. And we execute it really, really well. That's our goal. And then at the bottom, this is our turkey sausage and sweet potato hash. This dish kind of really captures what our food philosophy is all about. First and foremost, this is a great tasting dish. Food has to taste good. Whether it's better for you or not, you need something that tastes good. You're not going to eat something gross every day. This is a great tasting dish that also happens to be better for you and is something that we think people could eat every day and feel good afterwards. So it's got sweet potatoes, we do homemade, house-made turkey sausage, onions, we throw a little bit of greens in there, and then an egg on top. If you go to our website, our full menu's on there as well. And then about brand. So brand is really important to us. So we, just the aesthetics of the brand, if you go to our site, we're intentionally, we're working with people on design that are intentionally building it for our target audience. And then you'll eventually see that when you see the four walls of the space. And I gave the example of Shake Shack because just for visual purposes, if you go to a Shake Shack, it's higher energy, it's a little faster paced than your average fast casual restaurant, and it's got kind of that youthful appeal to it.
But still, you need a tagline. You need something that makes you stand out. And your colors are sort of muted. The bowls need cute names, something fun, something funny, so that you're memorable. Because, people are just driving down the street, they're going to go into something familiar. And that's going to be a big driving force, is the familiar. So you need to get out there to become something people know.
Yeah, thank you. That's good feedback.
Hello. Okay, I have just 2 quick questions.
Yeah.
I love breakfast. That's like my favorite meal of the day.
Same here.
So, what will be like your typical
Hours. So depending on where we end up, it'll be somewhere between 6 and 3. Could go open a little bit later, could maybe stay open a little bit later. So yes, we're breakfast, but lunch is also a key component of what we're doing. We're breakfast first, and our menu's very breakfast inspired, but lunch is also, we have to do a decent lunch business to be viable. So somewhere in that 6 to 3 range.
All right, and then have you ever heard of a place called, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right, maybe Pret-A-Manger or Pret-A-Manger or something like that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So I've been there a couple times in Chicago riding with the Amtrak, and I just love the convenience of when you just stop in and I could grab before I catch the next train or something. So have you considered an option, since I know that there's been times where I'm like, oh, the line for breakfast is too long, or I didn't stop somewhere because of that. And that convenience of being able to grab it really quick, not wait for you to cook it. Have you considered it? Having hot
Yeah, we're implementing that for sure.
Okay.
So I mentioned you can order ahead, a fresh made dish that's hot, ready for you. We have it on the shelves. We'll also have a grab and go cooler as well with some of our dishes that can be pre-prepared. And like you mentioned, if it's just the line's too long or you're just really got to get in and get out, yeah, you can come in and grab it and head out. Thank you.
Hold on, we got a lot of questions all of a sudden.
You guys had mentioned increase in access to healthy foods as being one of the biggest problems that you guys are trying to solve. And the biggest barrier to access is affordability. What are you guys going to do to really address affordability to increase your guys' potential customer base?
Yeah, so our first priority is we need to build a viable, profitable business. We're transparent about that, is that we can't impact our communities if we're not profitable, so we can't stay open, right? So first we have to create a good business model. And then a part of that is then we can have this platform where we talk a lot about, I mentioned Emily's an educator. Education is a really, really big component for us, and the reason we've learned through our own journey is that we had no idea, in our early 20s, we kind of ate whatever, we didn't really think twice about what we put in our bodies, and through our own kind of journeys with wanting to feel better, just discover about, just study nutrition, we've learned that it can have a life-changing impact. Just the fact that you feel better in the morning, for example, can really impact your day. So we think that there's an opportunity that maybe not a lot of people know, maybe what we've experienced in sharing our story. And Emily's particularly passionate about that with education, but then access, we're thinking about how can we're fortunate that we've got, if you take eggs aren't a very expensive item to purchase, right? So is there a way we can package up some things on our menu and offer affordable price points, or do some separate programming where we have our food at more affordable price points, and so we're starting to think about that. But again, priority number one is we have to have a business that is sustainable so that we can afford to do that.
Absolutely. And the other,
Yeah.
So this is the part of the business that I'm really passionate about. Like Rob said, I'm an educator. We haven't quite worked through that yet, but we see Daily Standard as more than just a restaurant, like Rob said. We want to be able to impact our community, and how do we do that? So this is some stuff we're researching right now and trying to figure out what our options are. Like, is there a way that we can get into local schools? Or is there a way where we actually are able to give food? Or are we going to donate a part of our proceeds? That's the part that we're working on to figure out what's the best way to do that. We really need to launch first, and that's something that I'm hoping that I can start to do more, especially being an educator. So not only do we give our money, do we give our time, our actual food, but also the education piece. So you see a sandwich here, right? And people might be like, oh, that's not really healthy. Well, when we talk about health, we talk about, on our website, I think it says BS free. When you eat one of our sandwiches, it's super clean. The eggs are cage free. If you choose to get sauce or cheese on it, there's nothing hidden in our food. And most people don't know that. And not everybody knows that there are choices with what we can eat if you have access to it, and that's the part that we need to work on. But a sandwich at our place is very different than a sandwich maybe from another place. So there's the education piece, but then there's also the piece about, well, what do we do for people who don't have access to these things? So it's in the works. And if anybody has any ideas or contacts, please come talk to us afterwards, or our information is on our website, because that's the part we're starting to work through now.
absolutely. And that was the other part of my question, was around educating. How do you really educate people on what is healthy and what isn't healthy, and how do you guys differentiate from, say, a Panera that does something similar with, we have clean food, but what actually is clean food? How is a cage-free egg any different than a caged egg? And understanding some of those differences, so I can be more confident with, if I'm going to spend 20% more on that breakfast, that I'm ensuring that it is healthier and it is to be beneficial from a biological standpoint.
Yeah, that's the other part this is sort of the stuff that I'm working on. We envision things like, well, is it through our marketing, also perhaps through a blog, and maybe even holding some sort of education nights. This is the stuff this is why I got into this. So thank you. That's the stuff we're thinking about and trying to work through.
And I did, on that note, I want to just mention our food philosophy, we call it common sense nutrition. in the sense that high level, we're serving real food. It's from the earth. It's there's nothing added or fake to it. And so, think veggies, think clean proteins, think, in the case of carbs, sweet potatoes is a much better carb option than maybe a highly processed carb. And so it's intuitive in the sense that it's real food, and you generally feel good after you eat it. That's our goal. And then the other end of the spectrum is we're avoiding fake foods, processed foods, added sugars. Common sense in one way, but we also, we do need to have that educational component.
Hi. Have you already procured or developed your order ahead platform? I was just wondering if it's something you can sort of buy off the shelf and then customize, or do you have to put in a lot of development money? How are you going to handle that?
So we're fortunate now, we're in a time where the technology has advanced such that not most, but a lot of your leading point of sale providers are really trying to be an all-in-one service for restaurants. So the point of sale provider that we would be using does have that capability built right in. It is plug and play in a lot of cases, and you can kind of customize it for your brand, but it's plug and play in terms of the technology. It's integrated right into the point of sale.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Cool. So I like you guys' idea. I'm in college, so this reminds me of like the stores on our campus. It's very convenient because obviously we have class whenever we have time to cook, or we don't have kitchens at all. So I really do like you guys' idea. As far as the educational piece of what you were talking about, I think it's pretty cool because you guys are like for-profit. But if you guys, you guys are for-profit, correct?
Correct.
Right. So if you guys could still create a mission like it's a nonprofit for you guys to give back, so be very specific in who you're wanting to give back to. So whether that's you or whether that's, food deserts, people who live in food deserts, make sure that's specific so that way you know that your impact is hitting those people that you exactly want. That was just my piece because I'm working for a nonprofit. And then my last question was, as far as dietary trends, I was wondering how you guys would attack those because I know you guys are, all about being healthy, but are you guys going to have options for people who don't eat pork or don't eat, just red meats or they're gluten-free? Like, how are you guys going to attack that?
Glad you asked. Yes. To simply answer the question, we will have dietary-friendly options. So yes, we have gluten-free bread as a substitute for our dishes. If you are paleo or keto or some of the really popular dietary choices right now, you can find items on the menu, vegetarian included as well. We intentionally did not market ourselves as, hey, we're going to be built just for this dietary trend in order to not limit ourselves, but we purposely built the menu so that it is customizable and amenable to those dietary choices.
My question goes off that also. I'm vegetarian. I'm looking at your menu right now. There's nothing that I would choose unless I did no eggs, I just got potatoes and veggies, which is fine, but I would recommend adding some kind of tofu scramble or some other option. Don't put it on the menu necessarily, but make it an option. If you don't want pork, do some kind of veggie chorizo, veggie sausage. There's a bunch of local things and vendors that you can choose from also to make other partnerships and stuff like that.
Do you eat Impossible Burgers by chance or Beyond Meat? Or
I've tried it before, yeah.
Yeah, we've reached out to them. I'm glad you brought that up because we recognize that that's a gap right now in our menu. And we'd love to talk afterwards to hear more feedback on that. Because we're not vegetarians ourselves, I don't think we're as well versed in that, but we know that that's an opportunity to make it more vegetarian friendly. So we'd love to get your feedback on that after. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to take the last two questions. First off, you've kind of already said, what can the community do for you? What are you looking for? Why are you standing right up here in front of us right now?
First and foremost, it's feedback. So we've heard some of it. We'd love to have any one-on-one conversations if you have it. We're really looking simply for community support. That's all. Again, we're a new brand, so not a lot of people know about us. And so as St. Louis natives, again, we said that there was no other place that we wanted to start a business than here. So really Even if you're transplants, I think everybody feels connected to the city in a special way, especially if you're here at T-Rex. So I think it's really just about building community for us.
And that dovetails nicely into my next question. What is your marketing strategy, before you have a physical location and then once you have a physical location?
Sure. Thanks. So marketing, first and foremost, we are huge believers in your marketing starts with your product and service. I know that sounds oversimplified, but particularly in restaurants where there's so many dimensions that make an experience great or not great. So whether that's the food, was it consistent? Did it taste good? Is it inconsistent? What was the experience like? Was the service good? So operationally, we want to be very, very excellent in how we execute across all those dimensions, because great products and great services, they sell themselves in some cases. But if we turned on the marketing engine and had a big, beautiful brand and said we're going to do X, Y, and Z, but we don't deliver on that, then there's that gap between what people expected and what they actually got. So it's going to start in the four walls, but then it's really going to get down to a few different dimensions. It's going to get down to our digital strategy is going to be really important to that. So we'll invest in digital marketing. Organic social is going to be a part of that, and then community. So again, we're just now getting out in the community, but especially once we have a location, we want to make sure that we get to know that community in a really deep way. So it's a lot of grassroots in that sense.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
So please help yourself, and thank you for your feedback.
And we are on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram. We're at Daily Standard Food. We would love for you to give us a follow. That's how we have been telling people about the events we have around St. Louis. And also, we would just love to connect and get more feedback. There's a little bit of beauty in being unknown right now because we're really in a learning phase. So if you have time and want to come talk to us about some things you liked, maybe some things you didn't like, please don't hesitate. We really do want your feedback, so thank you.